And we continue this morning our focus on policing in South Africa. We're focusing on the country's provinces and the different interventions that the South African police services are deploying to address crime. Tonight, this morning, we home in on the country's economic hub. This is Gauteng, and Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni joins me now for a chat. Good morning.
Good morning, Iman, and greetings to the viewers at home.
It's such a pleasure to have you, and thanks for coming into the studio. One doesn't even know where to begin when we're talking about Gauteng and crime. There are just so many areas of focus. But perhaps let's kick off, with just our overall picture in terms of crime. And there was a crime index released at the beginning of the year, revealing that South Africa's capital city, this is Pretoria, is the second most dangerous city in the world. Durban and Johannesburg following at number 3 and 4 respectively. 2 out of these 3 are they're in your province. How do you feel about this? And there's a number of different sort of bad titles associated with Gauteng. How do you feel about them?
Well, I think the main thing, Iman, is that with this reflection you have made, the crime which are reported to the police or to us, affects community, and I would say in general we're all affected in terms of crime. And it is important that we do the collaboration, ensuring that we work closely together so that we can be in a position to fight the scourge of crime.
Because when you say working closely together, you're not only talking about collaborating with other law enforcement agencies, you really do need the community to walk this journey of, crime prevention and eradicating crime together with you, right?
No, that's true. And I should think, I always say, in Gauteng, we are walking the talk, in which sense, because the government have approved or the cabinet have approved the whole government approach, which has to be linked with the National Development Plan, ensuring that the communities feel safe. And then there are 6 pillars. And out of those pillars, you'll realize that there's integrated governmental programs, there's a policing through environmental design, the earlyhood, the child development, criminal justice system, you're having gender-based violence, you're having the involvement of community, of course, of which I will say we're proud in this province, and with the former MEC, we're in a position to can put together Community in Blue, of which we're having 7,200. But with the other collaborations, E2 projects, which I co-chair with Business Against Crime South Africa, we are in a position to link up with the E2 project, which is... there's a memorandum of understanding by the National Commissioner. E2 project is linked to security, which is eyes and ears. Within this province, we're having over 206,000 security personnel, of which is a supplementary workforce, which we are working closely together. I think one must indicate that we had a lot of breakthroughs. Maybe if one have an opportunity to indicate on some of those crimes, which we had a breakthrough with them.
We'll talk to, because I want to talk about the success of the high-density operation that you're coming off that high from this weekend that's gone by. But when you say you're collaborating with security personnel, are you talking about security companies in the province?
Yes, we're having a structural form in terms of linking with the Business Against Crime South Africa. It's linked to the E2 project, which is eyes and ears. And in that collaborations, based on our database, security companies, we're having over 4,000. But the personnel, which is across the province, to be precise, 275,000 of the security personnel, which augments to the workforce which we're having. And of course...
What's your workforce? How many police are deployed across the province?
Well, it's over 26,000, but you must take note that you're having the issue of the shifts, you have to ensure that they're available for you for 24/7. In actual fact, when you go to the community service center, there has to be police officials, those who are there. And I'm talking of basically those who are police officials, excluding people who are doing administration. And with the population...
So not necessarily boots on the ground. So
it is police officials, those who are within the province, if one may say, out of 16.2 million in terms of a state SA mid-estimate population of 2023.
Okay, I want to come back to that one because, you know, the issue of human resource being efficacious in your policing depends on the resource, on those resources that you have. So we'll come back there a little bit later on. We've seen, Lieutenant General, that the murder rate in Gauteng has increased by 3% in the fourth quarter of 2023 compared to the previous year. And what the stats are showing us is that out of 1,800 people who were killed, 214 were women, 50 were children. Again, it's a dangerous province, as we well know, for women and children in many respects. What is your strategic vision? Because crimes, the anatomy of crime is very different. Perhaps there's a different policing approach that needs to be adopted when it comes to managing particular types of crime. So talk to us about how law enforcement is adapting to these specific crime challenges and trends in Gauteng.
Well, murder is classified under a category for contact crimes. And when you look on the contact crimes, it varies as how these crimes they get committed. Some of them it is in the house, some of them it's on the streets, based on the issues of the hijackings and so on and so forth. I must indicate that based on what I've indicated in terms of the whole government approach, we are in a position to can collaborate with the community. When you look on that, the 6 pillars, that community involvement. The community involvement is really key. Because within the communities, we have in the community in blue, you know, the patrollers, we're having within those communities where the communities, they are well structured. And I must say within this province, as I've indicated, because some of those crimes, you have to ensure that you are partnering with Business Against Crime South Africa, like the security industry, I say 206,000. But over and above that, one has to indicate that in terms of the pillar, which I regard it as a pillar 1, the integrated governmental program within this province. We have in the 3 metropolitan department police, of which with their workforce, they're over 10,000. We're in a position to can collaborate, more especially when it comes to hijacking on the highway, byways. We're also having the Gauteng traffic police, which we're having a workforce of over 4,000. So these are some of the issues, complementary workforce. But other than that, we're having the issues of the Vuma camp, you know, of which on the 13th of February I was with the Premier, and then we had...
the launching of that security camera system across the province.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's time, we'll come back to that one because, again, it's reinforcing this concept of eyes and ears and having that visibility and making sure that there are no dark corners in the province for criminals to hide. What I'm not hearing you talk about, you talked about the collaboration between police and the private security companies across the province. What about the crime wardens? I think we call them the Amapanyazas. What's happening there? Yeah,
when I say it's the integrated governmental program, it's all people who are taken within, you know, the government.
So they are playing a role?
Yes, they are playing a role.
Right.
Currently, we're having over 6,000, of which there are within, you know, the policing present. They are linked to a police station. They work closely with the police officials. But safe to say, the Gauteng traffic police, they are also with them in ensuring that they manage that program or they manage that space. So one would say, yeah, it is working, more especially when you look on the question of, because what is important at the end of the day in terms of this is that the community has to have that feeling that they are safe.
Yeah.
So with this deployment, integratedly so, you could see when you see them out there that there's that feeling that the communities, they feel that they are, and they are really safe.
Because, I mean, as it is, you know, as a woman, I'm afraid to go anywhere at night. I was also a victim of a hijacking, a robbery, and so on. My daughter had her phone smash and grab this weekend. Crime is everywhere. It's in all our families. It's in when we go to the store. It's in when we come back from a party or whatever the case may be. What's interesting, though, is when you look at the contributors of the behaviours that contribute to the murder rate in the province, a lot of them is about, as you say, it's about civil society. It's about managing behaviour as well. Arguments, misunderstandings, provocation, road rage, and then, of course, you have crime like house theft, business theft, and street robberies and so on. How do you police for these types of things? Some of which are, you know, pure crime, that's planned and, you know, intentional, and others which just happen spontaneously and come out of the way that society is behaving?
With this high-density operation and the concept of Operation Shanyela, you could see us in Gauteng were week in, week out, and on the streets there is no weekend. But what is really important, as I've indicated, that we have walked the talk. I have moved the length and breadth of this province in ensuring that I engage the stakeholders, which includes the community, which includes the law enforcement agency, in ensuring that we drum together, in ensuring that we have the understanding of the whole government approach. So what I've done, I was in a position to can indicate to the stakeholders, to indicate to them, to say, in terms of this whole government approach, the 6 pillars approach, this is our plan. Because when you look on it, it is inclusive. And crime, as we are indicating, it's happening. On, you know, every corner of the street you can have a crime, but we are still responsible in ensuring that we look on the intelligence reports, or we look on the happenings of the crimes, and then we deploy accordingly. For example, the highway, byways, you can look on the grandstand on-ramp. You'll realize that always there's a police vehicle, either the Metro Police, which are deployed in there, because we're trying also to make sure that we create that space for the community to be safe. Even on your municipal roads, you know, your M2, M2 South, and so on and so forth, you realize that we are deploying. You go to Gululis there along the highway, you will realize that there's a Eguruleni Metropolis, and so on and so forth. So that collaboration indeed is assisting us in ensuring that we have to work closely together in ensuring that we fight the scourge of crime.
Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni, the Gauteng Police Commissioner, will continue to be in conversation with me after this short break. We'll talk about Zamazamas, so-called Zamazamas. We'll talk about vigilantism, and we'll continue to talk about how the provincial commissioner and his team is planning on making Gauteng, the economic heartland of the country, safe for all. Gauteng Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni is my guest today, and we're talking about him and his team's plan to make the province safer, and some of the, the priority crimes that are really blighting the existence and the ability for citizens in the province to just live in peace and in safety and security. Lieutenant General, let's carry on. I thought we'd go to the issue of illegal mining, and our reporters have been all out covering stories about how communities are just held ransom by illegal mining, and I'm not including legitimate artisanal miners and so on. I know that there's a difference. We're talking about people who mine illegally, who make the infrastructure unsafe, who then also carry out unlawful and criminal activities right inside communities. You see shootouts happening sometimes, and I'm thinking of Rivoli, for example, where we saw people just burst out into the street armed with firearms, and there were thousands of operations that, as police, you've conducted. What is the plan when it comes to Zamazamas? And give us a picture, a current picture of how this form of illegal mining is taking place.
Thank you once more again, Iman. I must indicate that within this province, we are working closely with the South African National Defence Force, week in, week out, and as well as the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And during June or last month, somewhere down the 18th, I issued the statement of which the media were there for 100 days in the office. And maybe to update, the community or the nation in terms of what is the total arrest which we have made is 2,159 arrests which we have made since for disruptive operations. This is a lower scale, typical type of mining. I must indicate that we are also working very closely with the Directorate Priority Crime Investigation, which is well known as the Hawks under General Kadwa, in that space, because it is a problem. You have to look on the bigger picture for people who are committing those crimes. We have since together registered 4 projects in 2022 in West Rand, because the mining or illegal mining, to say it's in West Rand, it's in Johannesburg, it's in Ekurhuleni. So out of these 4 projects in 2022 in October, it was terminated. This was project Coded Gillette, where 6 people were arrested and over 20 million assets were seized, and we have since linked with the NPA in terms of the state's forfeiture. So we are continuing with these other projects, which is coded as well. And we think that we are making inroads, but one has to indicate that from time to time, as we are in this space, you'll realize that we're getting these, the processing equipment in the form of pendukas. And the other
These are those refining machines.
Yeah,
I think
these machines,
over 3,000, almost 4,000 of these machines. I mean, it's a serious operation, right?
Yeah.
Gas bottles, hundreds of gas bottles.
Yes.
533 commercial explosives.
Yes.
6,800 port crushers.
Yes.
I mean, these are not small operations. And I guess the concluding question, just so that we can move on to another area of crime, is whether you are making high-value arrests in terms of the people that are running the syndicates, and when we are likely to see those cases appear in court, and just overall, whether you think at this stage you're winning the war against illegal mining.
Yeah, well, in terms of the high level, which we call it level 3 upwards, or level 3 to 5, I would say we have made inroads. I've just given an example of that case, which we have wrapped it up in 2022. 6 suspects, they're still going court now with over 20 million assets. This includes houses, it includes a vehicle, and we have since linked up with the NPA in ensuring that there has to be this correlation in terms of the state forfeiture. I must just indicate that from time to time, in terms of disruptive operations, we are in those spaces. And week in, week out, the South African National Defence Force, Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, and the locality, the South African Police Service, of course, we are in those spaces doing what we could do in terms of disruptive operations.
And when we think about Lieutenant General, we spoke about different aspects of crime. We spoke about murder. We touched on carjackings a little bit, and if there's time, we can maybe go back there. It's this overall feeling of safety that you say you want people to experience in the province. We know that historically there have been trust issues between people wanting to lay charges and opening up cases at individual police stations, especially when it comes to gender-based violence or reporting on sexual crimes. What can you update the public on in terms of the sensitization of your members across the province, at police stations across the province, to be able to receive these, to have a more sophisticated approach towards dealing, especially with things like sexual violence? Well,
we're having the special unit for FCS, Brigadier Zulu. She's in charge for the province in ensuring that we give attention for these crimes. As I've indicated, the whole government approach, you also having the gender-based violence, but we're also having some programs within the community which we work with the community in ensuring that we sensitize, the community. Yeah. And the other issue is to concentrate on the project of ensuring that we also have some programs with men, because some of these crimes that are attributed to on the side of men, and we ensure that with like Intiman, who is the president of this liquor association, or the chairperson of liquor association, we do some programs in ensuring that we are in those spaces. But it is really important that we have to work closely together in the community as to report these typical type of a crime, so that we can be in a position to can deal with these crimes precisely.
What is your pledge to people who are victims or survivors of, violence in the home and sexual violence, in terms of the service that they will experience at police stations?
Well, each and every police station, we're having a station commander. I call them the CEO for the police stations, and you'll find that when you get into that police station, there is a contact number which they've displayed in there. If they happen to be not satisfied, and then they can call so that we can be in a position to can attend to their problems. But on the other hand, there are also other toll-free numbers which we can use in ensuring that we provide really a service and we professionalize the South African Police Service.
I've got to let you go soon because I know that you've got a busy day ahead of you. But I want to just circle back to one more thing before I get you to share your message, to those who are criminals and would-be criminals in the province. Just this number, talking about police members in relation to the security companies, 26,000, I think, members was the number that you said, in relation to the 265,000 security personnel that operate across the province. You say you're working in close collaboration with them. What's the level in terms of intelligence sharing? I mean, because one of the concerns that we have is already, that it's a pain point. People were paying for security companies to look after their homes when we should have an optimally functioned police service is a grudge payment. Nobody really wants to pay for that, but we have to, because we've seen in the past historically police aren't able to deal with the challenge and just the breadth of demand for policing and security across the province. But the concern then comes in is a lot of these are foreign-owned entities. I mean, how much of police intelligence and information is being shared in these collaborative efforts?
Yeah, I think we're having the great intelligence capacity within the province under the leadership of Major General Kalakala. I must say that we are confronted with quite a number of issues like CIT, ATMs, bombing. I must indicate that during this year, February, we're in a position to can, be head-on with these criminals, and we managed to, on the exchange of fire, 2 fatal wounded, and then we recovered 4 rifles. There was an issue in Mpumalanga of which these people, they were from this side. We managed to pursue them up until Mpumalanga. 5 were fatal wounded, 8 were arrested, and we managed to recover 8 firearms, of which 6 were rifles. And other than that, one would say, in terms of the ATM, recently we had 2 people were arrested out of the province, and when we get deeper, we realize that we are in a position to can recover the firearms, and with the link of the main banks like ABSA, FNB investigators, we're in a position to can crack up these things. The spiking, for example, is a problem within the province, of which we have since arrested 34. The latest was 8, of which 6 of them they had in possession of unlicensed firearm or ammunition. For example, in Juke Lane, just to reflect on that one, and then we had up until now, since we have established the stabilization team with the former minister and the national commissioner, we have since arrested different people, total of 79 for different crimes. You are hijacking and so on and so forth. Anti-gangs, you are Westbury, you are El Raro Park. We have a total since I started in the office on March. We have since arrested 158, 14 firearms, and so on and so forth. So the other issue is that with the kidnapping, we know it is a thorn on our flesh, and then we are tapping into the media statement released by National, where they have arrested over 200. I must indicate June and now, we have arrested over 20. We know for the fact there in El Dorado Park, the 14, we know the businessmen for butchery or in Boysens, and then we have arrested 5, and also in Florida and so on and so forth. But I must indicate that in pursuing the priorities for the minister, for example, the firearm controls, since I have been appointed, we have managed to arrest 2,838. We managed to recover 2,838 firearms, of which 219 is rifles, and then 131 is shotguns, and over 39,000 rounds. And furthermore, in professionalizing the South African Police Service, looking into the provincial priority, which is also the priority for the minister. Since the 1st of March up until now, we have since arrested our own in order to clean up 61, and of which 16 of them they were since dismissed for fraud, for corruption, different types of crimes.
Lieutenant General, as I'm watching you read earnestly your notebook, because I know there's so much that you want to share with the people of the province in terms of the work and the progress that you are making, it again makes us, you know, sort of want another conversation and perhaps more constant updates in a province that is crime-ridden, but in a province where you say you're doing everything that you possibly can to bring crime under control. So thank you for sharing what you have shared, and we definitely must have you back and continue the conversation. I guess, you know, to end, what is your message to people who are sitting at home, would-be kidnappers, would-be carjackers, would-be, you know, illegal miners, would-be murderers, would-be rapists, and so on? What is your message to those who are holding us, our sense of well-being and our safety and security at ransom?
Thank you very much, Iman. A strong message to people who are into cash-in transistors, into ATM bombings, into blue light robbery, into spiking, to clearly indicate that with the capacity we currently having with our intelligence, we will be in a position to can get information, we'll look for you, whether you are in the river, whether you are in the valley, we'll make sure that we hunt you. And I'm just giving a strong warning that whenever you are, when we get you, you'll feel like you are sitting on top of the fire.
Well, strong words, and I really want to see that happen in the next couple of months. We will get a progress update for you. Thanks for availing yourself today. Before I let you go, Mthombeni is watching our interview today and says, Iman, while you're interviewing the man, the Zamazamas took my son's life, and that case wasn't taken by the Roodepoort police station. I hope I can leave this with your team, and maybe you can reach out to the person directly as well, just as an example of the kind of impact that these sorts of conversations are having in our community. Really do appreciate your time, Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni, the Gauteng Provincial Police Commissioner.